2 years ago, as we were going to the overtime bills that were here in the legislature, and we had 3 heat illness bills. At the same time as we were getting to the very end of the summer, when those bills were getting through the last few hours through the legislature, and then it was going to be on the governor's desk to either sign or veto those bills, we had counties starting giving their crop reports. And so all of a sudden we had the crop reports coming out for 2011, and we were hitting all-time high marks. And we started hearing from legislators, what are you guys worried about heat illness regulations? You can afford it. They're seeing gross numbers, and they don't realize that gross does not mean net. And today, you know, and sometimes farmers, and being, you know, a lifetime farmer, when things are good, sometimes we don't like to push back. And one of the things that I have made one of my mantras and the soapbox that I get on is political action. We as California agriculture are not taking our rightful place. When you think today, or last year, we were a $43.5 billion industry. We are not raising enough political capital to go out and combat and to make sure that the right folks get elected in Sacramento and Washington, D.C. And shame on us. You look at the California Correctional Peace Officers Association, the prison guards, they're active. The California Teachers Association, they're active. The realtors, they're active. The dentists, they're active. Go ask a farmer to write a check for political action, and you thought you asked for the last dollar, even when they're doing really, really good, because they're not sure what you're going to do with that dollar. And as I tell folks, you know, as a walnut grower, if I got 5 walnut farmers together and we started talking about how to prune a walnut tree, over a duration of about 2 hours, we come up with 6 or 7 different ways to prune that tree, because a couple of us are going to change our minds twice. But you know what? We're all going to prune that tree in a way that's going to be productive. And I think that farmers and ranchers have to trust organizations like the Farm Bureau to spend their money in the right way. This state is now 2/3 Democrat, and most of those are from urban areas. We don't vote in those areas. We're not going to elect those people. We're not going to elect them with our votes. We can help elect the right people with our dollars to make sure, especially now with the 2 top primary, where you've got a district, it's an urban district. The majority of those folks, you know, the majority party registration is Democrat, so you know it's going to be a Democrat that's going to get elected. With the 2 top primary, we have to make sure we have one sensible business candidate that's a Democrat, and then you're going to have whatever else is there. And typically, the Democrat Party is going to choose somebody that's the more liberal, as you talk about environmental types of things, which means regulation. And so if we don't change Sacramento to our benefit and to the good, for all of California, fiscally responsible types of individuals that are Democrats, they have never had an ability to get elected before, we need to elect them. We need to help them get elected. And the way we do that is by raising dollars and making sure that our organizations like the California Farm Bureau then go out and help the right people get elected. And we can do that. But we can change California in the future to the better. We need more water storage. This state could change drastically if we're not careful, if we don't have more water storage. There should be that we should not be for want of water when we're between the Pacific Ocean and the Sierra Nevadas. We should be able to store up in times of plenty so we have it when we don't have times of plenty. We should be able to recharge our underground aquifers. Instead, we're pulling our underground aquifers down, and we're starting to have subsidence issues. That should never have happened. It's because we did not get engaged soon enough and strong enough. We better do it now. But most of us tend to be superstitious. We don't do anything when things are good. I had an older farmer, elderly farmer from over in the San Benito area one day told me, and if you really want to know how things are going in agriculture, ask somebody that's been around a while. They have wisdom a lot of times well beyond their years because they've experienced it. But this individual told me, he says, I like what you're saying, Paul, but he says farmers aren't going to spend when things are going good. They're superstitious. They don't want to rock the boat. Last year when we did one of our farm pack mailings for people to send money to our farm pack so we could utilize that money to try to change Sacramento and the people that were sitting in those offices in Sacramento, I saw an increase from one segment of our industry, and that segment was dairy. He said farmers won't fight until their back is up against the wall. Dairymen's back is up against the wall. Dairymen who could least afford to write those checks are writing those checks saying, let's get politically active. We ought to have almond growers, walnut growers, all the growers that are doing very well right now sending checks. It should be part of what you do Just like you buy fertilizer, crop protection materials, water, labor, whatever it is, political action ought to be in your budget every year. And if it's not coming to Farm Bureau, it ought to be going to somebody. And then make us accountable. And you've got farmers and ranchers just like you that are deciding where that's going. There's nobody that has the network for having accountability like the Farm Bureau. We have our county offices. We have farmers and ranchers that sit on those boards. We have farmers and ranchers that sit on the CFBF board of directors. The accountability is there. You know, we need to get out there and get involved and be politically active. If we're not, we have nobody to blame for ourselves if our future isn't golden.
So farming then is hugely political.
Hugely political. I never thought in my lifetime I would see a point where the markets are not our problem. We have always had to fight against sustainable markets, and we know we have the highs and lows of the markets. The world wants what we can produce here in California. It's now, can we fight back against the regulation, and we provide the infrastructure that we need? And by infrastructure, I mean water. We've got the soils. And we saw what we could do in 2010 and 11 when we had wet years and the Central Valley started getting a little bit more water. Not the water they were necessarily entitled to and had been getting because of the political drought with the biological opinions at the pumps. But when we started getting a little bit more water south, just look at how it started to blossom and bloom. People went to work. We started creating economic activity that was an economic stimulus for everybody in this state. Because it's a raw product, we're growing something, we're actually producing something. It's not just a service, we're producing food that is sliced and diced and packaged and marketed and shipped. And so whether or not the farmer made a lot of money at the end of the year, once that product left their farm, that product created economic activity and wages for a lot of other people downstream.